What if the biggest clues that you might live past 90 are already showing up in your daily life, but no one ever told you what to look for? What if longevity is decided at 80 or 85, but quietly shaped decades earlier through patterns so ordinary you stopped noticing them? And what if believing you read just average after 65, the very thing hiding how exceptional your odds really are? Here's the mystery. When people think about living past 90, they picture rare genetics, extreme fitness, or expensive medical care. But long-term aging research in the United States tells a very different story. The strongest predictors of extreme longevity are not dramatic. They are subtle, and most people who have them don't even realize it. Let's follow the timeline, because none of this begins in old age. The origins of the issue start in early adulthood. In your 20s and 30s, long before blood pressure numbers mattered, your body and brain were learning how to respond to stress, not avoid it, respond to it. Studies from the Harvard Grant Study, one of the longest-running longitudinal studies in American history, show that people who developed adaptive coping skills early in life lived significantly longer than those who relied on avoidance or chronic anxiety. The cause was emotional regulation. The effect was biological resilience. People who learned how to calm themselves without shutting down built nervous systems that aged more slowly. At the time, it looked like personality. Decades later, it showed up as longevity. Now move into the changes that start quietly in the 40s. In midlife, most Americans begin to see the first warning signs. Weight creeps up, sleep changes, recovery takes longer. According to CDC data, this is when metabolic and cardiovascular risks quietly accelerate. Here's where one major split happens. Some people interpret these changes as decline and reduce activity. Others adjust, not dramatically, but consistently. They walk a little more, eat a little cleaner, sleep a little better. They don't chase perfection. The cause is adaptability. The effect is preserved function. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that maintaining moderate physical activity in your 40s and 50s has a compounding effect on muscle mass, balance, and insulin sensitivity decades later. This is one of the early signs. You may not have been extreme, but you stayed engaged. Now comes the shift after 70 that most people ignore. After 70, aging becomes less about prevention and more about momentum. This is where the signs of living past 90 begin to separate clearly. One sign is preserved curiosity. Seniors who continue learning, even casually, show slower cognitive decline. American aging surveys repeatedly show that mental engagement predicts longevity independent of education level. Another sign is emotional stability, not happiness, stability. Older adults who experience fewer emotional swings recover faster from illness and stress. This is tied to lower inflammatory markers in the body. But here's the twist most people miss. These traits don't feel special. They feel normal to the person living them. That's why many people who will live past 90 underestimate their own odds. Now we reach the breaking point where the difference becomes visible. This often happens after a major event, a fall, a surgery, the loss of a spouse. According to U.S. health data, this is where many seniors experience rapid decline. But those who live into their 90s show a different pattern. They rebound, not instantly, but steadily. The cause is physiological reserve. The effect is recovery. Longevity studies show that people who live past 90 often experience fewer severe disabilities until very late in life. This concept is called compression of morbidity. Illness is delayed, not prolonged. Here are some of the signs that predict this pattern. You recover from setbacks faster than peers. You maintain leg strength and balance. You sleep reasonably well without heavy medication. You maintain at least 1 or 2 meaningful relationships. You regulate stress without constant rumination. You adapt routines instead of abandoning them. You still feel useful in some way. You don't fear aging as much as others do. Most people watching this have at least half of these. Now let's talk about the fallout for those who don't recognize these signs. Many seniors misinterpret normal aging changes as failure. They over-restrict activity, over-medicalize discomfort, withdraw socially. According to American health surveys, this accelerates decline more than aging itself. The cause is fear-based behavior. The effect is reduced longevity. This leads to the failed fixes. One failed fix is chasing extreme anti-aging solutions late in life. Another is assuming genetics alone decides everything. A third is waiting for motivation instead of relying on routine. None of these work. Now let's connect this to today. If you are over 60 and you still adapt instead of quit, that's a sign. If you still get back up after setbacks, that's a sign. If your mind stays engaged, that's a sign. If you manage stress better now than you did at 40, that's a sign. Longevity is not about being exceptional. It's about being consistent. Here are 3 direct actions you can apply starting today. First, protect leg strength and balance. These are the strongest physical predictors of independent longevity after 80. Second, maintain daily cognitive engagement. Reading, learning, problem solving, not passively, actively. Third, reduce chronic stress exposure, not by avoiding life, but by controlling how much you carry. Here is the clear warning based on evidence. The fastest way to shorten lifespan after 70 is an activity driven by fear. Avoidance causes more harm than moderate strain. And here is the open thought to hold onto until the next video. If longevity is already unfolding quietly in your daily habits, what would change if you stopped underestimating yourself? If this made you think differently about your future, do like, leave a comment, and share this with someone who still believes long life is out of reach. Subscribe now for the next chapter, where we break down why some people age slowly while others accelerate after the same age.